Hi, it's Miss Quarles. Welcome to my virtual classroom. We're really excited to be making these videos for you guys, even though we can't be together. Today we're going to cover something that we have not talked about before. We're going to be talking about measurements. And we haven't covered it in class, but your Hamilton County work packet has some measurements in it, so we felt like it was really important to talk to you about it and share some things. So there are lots of times when you're going to have to use measurements at home. I know a lot of times we do math and you think, when are we ever going to use this? But measuring is one of those times where you're going to use it all the time in real life. You may have to answer that question, will this couch fit in my living room? Or will that shelf hold all of my video games? And you may have to take some measurements. So what are some other ways and other times you might think you might need to use measurements? Yeah, sometimes even in cooking, right? So measurements are all around us and they're all the time. Now, there are a lot of different tools that we can use to take measurements. For our measurements today, though, we're going to be talking about length. And there are 3 different tools that you can use to measure the length of an object. So we're going to talk about those and talk about when you would use them. So the first one that we're going to cover, of course, is just our ruler. So we're going to use rulers in class a lot. So we're going to measure small things like paper clips or crayons, books, pieces of paper. If we want to make a paper perfectly square, we might need to use a ruler to measure each side to make sure all the sides are the same. So that is the time we might need a ruler. Now, when we want to measure something big, we might have to use this. So you can see this takes up my whole screen almost. This is called a meter stick or a yard stick. Okay, one side is meter, one side is yards. Okay, so we might have to use this when we're measuring something bigger like a table or a desk in our classroom. And then of course there are times where we're going to have to use something much longer, and that's when we're going to use something called a measuring tape. And you can see this is going to stretch way out to measure really long things. So in a few minutes we're going to go outside and we're going to look at something that I'm going to measure, and we're going to figure out what is the best tool to do that with. What should we use to measure my big old van, Bertha? So let's go outside and have a look. So here we are outside of my house with my big giant white van. Some of you guys have seen it. My family calls her Bertha. She's big and beautiful Bertha. And this is how I haul around my huge family. But let's say I wanted to come out and measure Bertha and see how long she is. I've never done that before. So I could come out and I could use my ruler. And what if I came out and I had to start at the beginning? So I started here and I went, oh, there, Bertha's 12 inches. Bertha's 24 inches. Bertha's 36 inches. Bertha's 48 inches. Bertha's, what comes next? What if I forget my spot? What if I make my spots too big in between? Am I really going to be able to measure how long Bertha is and get an accurate measurement? Probably not. So is a ruler the best tool to use to measure Bertha? No. What about a yardstick? A yardstick gets a little bit closer. We're going to measure a much longer section, but we run into the same issue. How do I hold my spot here and then get my yardstick way down here? So is a yardstick going to be the best thing to measure Bertha? No, but that's when we're going to use a measuring tape. Okay, so we're going to come out here, and my assistant that's filming, she's going to hold the measuring tape way down here at the end. And then you'll notice I can stretch all the way down the whole big long length of Bertha. Can you see me still? I'm all the way down here. All right, and I got all the way down to 18 feet. Bertha is 18 feet long. That is a big vehicle. So then we can pull this back in. Gosh, it would have taken me forever to measure Bertha with a ruler or a yardstick. But with a measuring tape, it was really simple and easy. So let's go back inside and take a closer look at the ruler and see how we can take measurements with that. All right, now that we're back inside, let's take a closer look at a ruler and see what we notice about it. So you've got a ruler in your packet. You actually have 2. You have one that looks like this and one that looks like this. Now, if you're using a traditional ruler, you're going to have both of those on one ruler. So you notice this top one, the spaces are really big, and you have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 12. All right, and then on the other side, if you flip this over, you're going to have numbers again 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 30. Now, what we're looking at here is the difference between an inch, which is these bigger ones, and a centimeter. So if you look at this, what's bigger, an inch or a centimeter? That's right, an inch. An inch is a lot bigger than a centimeter. Now, when you're doing centimeters and you're looking this over, if you're doing inches or centimeters, how many centimeters do you see here in each inch? It's almost 3. So if you have 8 to 9 here, you have the bottom, you have 10, 9, and 8. You have almost 3 centimeters for every inch. But today we are going to learn how to measure using inches and centimeters. So if you look very closely, each one of these little marks in between represents a measurement. So if we're right here at 7, this next one is going to be 7 1/4, 7 1/2, 7 3/4, and then all the way up to 8. So that gets us all the way in between all the little spaces that make up an inch. So what does some of that sound like? 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and a whole. That sounds like when we worked with money and when we worked with time. Remember that? How we worked with 1/4 of an hour, a half hour, 3/4 of an hour, and then a whole hour. And then for money, we had 25, 50, 75, and a whole dollar. So you're going to hear those same terms, but they're going to stand for different measurements. So now let's actually get our rulers up here with some of our items. You can see them back on the board behind me, and let's actually do some measuring. All right, so now let's have a look at some items that we're going to measure. If you notice, this is the worksheet that is in your packet, and it asks us to measure a crayon, a pencil, and a book in both inches and centimeters. So we're going to use the ruler that was in our packets that you're going to cut out to measure these items. So let's have a look first at the crayon. All right, so here we have a crayon and we have our ruler up against it. Now, something super important to notice. This ruler has a line and then it has the number 0. Do we start measuring from the end of the line or from the 0? What do you think? Yeah, we're going to have to start it from the 0 or else our measurement is going to be off. So for this crayon, we notice that we have 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and almost 4 inches. So that is 3 1/4. But for this, we're going to go ahead and round up to 4 inches long. So once you have that measurement, you can come right over here, and under inches, we're going to write 4. All right, so now let's see what it looks like with centimeters. So this is our other ruler. You notice much smaller lines and much smaller numbers. Let's put it up against and see what it measures. Again, we can't start at the end of the ruler. We have to start at 0. So if we count all the way over, with this, these are much smaller numbers and harder to see, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and almost to 10. So we're at 10 centimeters for this crayon. So we're going to come over to our paper and we're going to write 10. All right, now this is an important time for us to talk about how we show our unit of measure. So for inches, we're actually going to take the first 2 letters of inches, I-N, and we're going to write that right here behind our number 4. Now for centimeters, it's a little bit different. We're going to take the C and the M, and we're going to write a small c and a small m after centimeters. So when we're doing our measurements, if you don't put on your unit of measurement, your inch or your centimeter, we can't be sure if you measured with the right side of the ruler. Okay, so now let's quickly look at a pencil. and try that one. So once again, we're going to start with inches. And here we go. We're going to put this right up against our pencil. All right. So if we look here, we're started at 0, not at the end. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're just a smidgen over 6. We're at about 6 1/4. But we're going to go ahead and round. We're going to make it round down to 6 because it's closer to 6 inches than it is to 7 inches. So here under our worksheet, we're going to write 6. And then we're going to put our unit of measurement, inches. All right, let's have a look with centimeters and see what it looks like. All right, again at 0. Woo, this is a lot of centimeters. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So because this pencil has been used some and my son has used up the whole eraser, it is only 16 centimeters long. So let's put that in. 16 centimeters. And then finally, it asks us to measure a book. So I have a book here. This is the Wings of Fire book. And instead of putting it up on the board, I want you to look closely. We're just going to hold up here our ruler. All right, notice once again, right here where the edge is at 0. Always put your edge at 0 so that you have an accurate measurement. And we're going to go all the way across, and this book is 8 inches long. So we're going to write in our 8 and our unit of measurement. All right, let's have a look at centimeters. All right, so we're starting again here on 0. And we're going all the way across, and this book is right at 20 centimeters. 20. So let's go ahead and write in 20 and our unit of measurement. All right, so we've measured 3 different items, the 3 that it asked us to measure. Are your measurements going to be exactly the same as mine? Probably not. Your crayon may be worn down a little more, or it may be brand new. Your pencil may be longer than my pencil, and you're not going to have the same book to measure. So your answers won't be the same as mine, but you need to make sure that you put in your IN for inches, your CM for centimeters, so that we know that you've measured with the correct unit. Now, your job to finish this out is to go find 4 more objects around your house and measure those. So you want to make sure that unless you have a yardstick or a measuring tape, that you're using the ruler inside your packet. So, are you going to be able to go out and measure your mom and dad's car or your kitchen table with a ruler? Probably not. You want to make sure that you're measuring things small enough that you can get an accurate measure with a ruler. And you're going to do both inches and centimeters. Then you're going to label that in to your packet. And when you turn it in next week, we'll be able to check it and make sure that you have a firm grip on measuring. When we get back to school, we're going to talk a lot more about measurements. And we're going to learn how to do estimates, and we're going to learn how to add measurements together and compare and contrast measurements. So I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you're able to do this. If you have any questions, please reach out to us by email. You can contact me, Miss Davenport, Mr. Anderson, or Miss Tadero, and we're all happy to answer your questions. All right, go get to work.